great. Thank you, Josh. That was a very nice introduction, and I'm thrilled to be here. I'm thrilled that you folks took some time out of your, evening, presumably leisure time, to come and learn about the kinds of things that we do, so I'm going to go through as much material as I can, as thoroughly as I can, but also with the idea of trying to get this whole thing wrapped up within about a half an hour. So we'll be going through these slides, and then at the very end of the presentation, throughout, if you have a question, just jot it down or jot it on into the question box, as Josh had said, and then at the end we will deal with all those questions. So let's get going. So just a little bit about me. I have been sort of in the expedition end of the business for most of my career. It's the kind of travel that I love. I love really getting in-depth and going to off-the-beaten-path places. It's a picture of me and my wife in Antarctica a few years ago. She's also kind of crazy for this kind of travel. And I'm showing you a picture of my two dogs because I love them, and also because they are here with me in my home office, and they're sleeping peacefully as we speak. But if somebody comes to the door or something, they will bark like Cujo, and I apologize in advance if that happens. And just a little fun fact, I quit smoking about 11 years ago, and I started yo-yoing. It was a great substitute, and I became a championship yo-yo player. So what I like to do is I take yo-yos all around the world with me, and like to teach kids how to yo-yo wherever I go, and that's a picture of me in one of the Amazon villages that we visit, teaching everybody how to yo-yo, and it's really was a really fun day. Now, Josh did a great job of talking about who we are, so I'm just going to spend a second on this slide. I mean, that picture in the upper corner is of our headquarters. We're on our own nature preserve in Helena, Alabama, just outside of Birmingham. We've been in business for 30 plus years, and so we really pioneered the sort of conservation travel and ecotourism travel. We really do believe that people love to go to these pristine wilderness and cultural areas, but in order for that to be sustainable, we have to find ways to make sure that economically benefits the areas visited, and so we're really passionate about that. As he said, great guides, small groups, focusing on local interaction and culture. And one thing he didn't say, but that's I'd like to toot Park Avenue's horn a little bit. We are kind of a small boutique company, and we don't have the resources or frankly the interest to go out there to every travel agency in the country. And so we really focus on just those agencies like Park Avenue Travel that are really able to sell not only the mass market product, but all of the boutique and interesting and unique stuff that's out there. So, you won't find brochures or information about us in most travel agencies in the United States, but you sure will find out about us and a lot of other really interesting companies at a place like Park Avenue. So let's move on. I just want to briefly say we do have destinations and programs throughout the world in Central and South America, Africa and the Middle East, Asia and the South Pacific, and this is just a few of the trips listed. So if you want to know more about all the places we go or whatever, just please contact your travel consultant at Park Avenue, and they can tell you all about everything we do. But we're going to start with just a couple of great adventures, and I'm going to look at these through the lens of traveling with family. They're great adventures whether you're traveling with family or not, but we've seen this explosive growth in family travel, multi-generational family travel in many cases, to places that might not have been considered family destinations 10 years ago, but the easier it is to get travel around the world, the more I always say if a kid is, our minimum age on most of our trips is 7. I tend to say if 7 or 8, once they're that age, you can pretty much go any place, and that's such a fun time to travel. Kids love it. They bond with their parents for life. They grow in such ways, and and then 8 to 80 is just a great time to go. So the first adventure we're going to talk about tonight is the Amazon. And when you just say the Amazon sort of as a generic term, it's a little it's generic. I mean, this is a picture of the Amazon basin you're looking at there, and basically it's the size of the continental United States. It's a huge watershed, and the superlatives about the Amazon are go on and on. One of the things that I didn't realize, but the entire length of the Amazon, there's not one bridge that goes across it, which is kind of interesting. But if you go down to the mouth of the Amazon down there, that's the Brazilian Amazon, and at that point, the river can be as wide as 30 miles and hundreds of feet deep. So you can get giant cruise ships up that part of the Amazon, but you're not going to find that has the sort of jungle habitat that people, I think, associate when you say you're going to be going to the Amazon. That's why we focus on the Peruvian Amazon, way in the western tributaries. And there's specifically this one area called the Pacaya-Samaria Reserve. And if I show you the map here, this reserve is bounded by two rivers, the Rio Marañón on the top there, and then we've got the Rio Ucayali on the bottom. And actually where the Rio Marañón and the Rio Ucayali, the confluence of those two rivers is considered the beginning of the geographic Amazon River. But those two tributaries to the Amazon bound this Pacaya-Samaria Reserve, which is one of the largest pristine rainforest habitats on Earth. And we pioneered this. We've been going here for 30 years, and nobody gets you sort of deeper into this wilderness than international expeditions. And this offers sort of the Amazon of people's imagination. I mean, amazing 400 plus species of birds, innumerable species of reptile and primates, just all sorts of spectacular wildlife, as well as these amazing people that live along the river in villages, the riberneros as they're called. This is the sort of Amazon, I think, that people think about when they think they want to go there. Now, of course, when you're traveling in a place like this that is so remote and whatever, you want to have a really comfortable base of operations. And that's where our ship, the Aquamarina, I think is just perfect for it. It's purpose-built for cruising the Amazon. It's 24 people. It's got 12 outside cabins. So it's very, small, of course, by cruise ship standards. All the rooms are, of course, fully air-conditioned and in-suite bathrooms, and they're kind of spacious for a smaller ship, 160 square feet. The dining room is on that top deck, fully air-conditioned, and serves, a combination of local and international cuisine. You have ice, you have gelato, you have the kinds of things that you want when you're roughing it in the jungle. But it's also, as I say, purpose-built for the Amazon. It's actually built on this barge superstructure, which isn't the most attractive thing, but what that allows us is it's got a very shallow draft, so it can really get up into the shallower waters, and it's got a metal hull, a steel hull, which is different than any other ships operating in this part of the world, in that most of them have wood hulls, and so they can't travel at night, for one thing, because there's a lot of submerged logs and things like that, whereas this very safe. This thing can kind of go anywhere. So it's a wonderful base of operations for visiting the Amazon. But the other thing that makes our the Aquamarina special is that we have been working in this area, like I say, for so long that we have sort of a staff of people that we love working with, and there's such a feeling of familiarity. They just greet all of our guests like family. The cabin stewards that actually clean your cabin by day, they're also extraordinary musicians, and they so they put on Hawaiian shirts and play all this great, like, both Peruvian folk songs and things, as well as Beatles music or whatever. So everybody joins in, plays maracas, sings along, dances up thing. It's just really fun for young and old alike. And then the other thing is that we've got extraordinary guides who we've worked with for many, many years. And we have two naturalist guides, so that, if you split the group up in half, it's about 12 per excursion boat. I'll talk about the excursion boats in a second. And and they take you out on the boats and take you out on hikes. And then we also have an expedition leader who's sort of overall managing the trip, trying to figure out what rivers are open, what rivers aren't, and where's the wildlife, and kind of determining where to go on a day-to-day basis. But these guys will really just take you and your kids in hand, and just to explain this incredible world that you're traveling through, that has natural, historical, cultural, geographical, all sorts of fascinating stuff that you want to be able to digest. So as I was saying, what we have is the ship will be kind of heading up stream, generally heading up once we get going up that Marañón River. And then we have these two 20-passenger excursion boats. And so, if we split up a 24-passenger ship onto two 20-passenger ships, you can see you have a lot of space to sort of spread out or whatever. And then these little ships can go anywhere. These little excursion boats can go way into the very, skinny tributaries up into the jungle, really get you to the places to be able to see animals and wildlife and everything else. So, every day is different, and different times a year are different, and I'll talk about, time of year travel in a little while, but, there's really not a bad time to go there, and, what they'll do every day is just kind of see what's out there. If we see a group of catfish fishermen, we'll go and maybe spend some time talking to them and finding out about their life, and, through the interpreters, finding out, what they do, exploring just life on the river. We, of course, spend lots of time going into the jungle and looking for wildlife and animals. And, it's really, if you've ever heard of or experienced an African safari, it's a very similar sort of pace where you'll wake up in the morning. We have coffee and tea kind of going 24/7. So sometimes we'll even have a really early sort of sunrise expedition for those who want to get up and do that. And then everybody will get up and have a nice hearty breakfast. And then after breakfast, we'll go out again for an expedition. Come back during the heat of the day. We'll have some lunch. We'll have maybe a little siesta. And then go back out in the afternoon and sometimes evening for other excursions and explorations. That I meant to show you that down in the corner, people were having breakfast on a ship one day. We did that. So besides all of the wildlife and animal life that we have to see, there's also these fascinating villages. And we've really gotten, having our experience there, we work with, we never announce to villages we're coming, and we certainly don't go to the same villages week after week. We like to sort of show up randomly to villages so that we don't create sort of a culture of dependency or whatever. And the villagers are just happy to see us. They just are. I've really never, in all of my travels, I've never encountered people who are just, they just were genuinely welcoming and happy to see our group, and you can take pictures of them, ask permission, and then they love it if you take pictures, and they love it when you show them that the photos on the LED screen. They'll invite you into their home, through interpreters, or if you know Spanish, you can ask, what's life like here? What do you do? And they'll be very honest. I mean, they have, they're not certainly wealthy by any standards, but they have an incredible wealth of agriculture, as well as food from the sea and materials from the river. They love to play soccer, so we'll often, especially when we have a group of a lot of kids on the ship, we'll set up a soccer game with the village kids, and everybody will join in on that. We will almost surely at one point visit with a village shaman, the sort of medicine man of the village, who uses indigenous herbs and plants, as well as some spiritual blessings and things like that, and to see to the health of the villagers. So you really have an opportunity to visit 2 or 3 of these villages throughout the trip, and that I find is as fascinating as the wildlife that's there. And we'll go out sometimes on an evening safari, looking for caiman, these alligators that you can really only see at night with a flashlight. You see their red eyes there. We catch sort of a small one that everybody can touch and look at, and then of course release it. And I will never forget when I was on this trip, and we went into the middle of the jungle, and it was just after sunset, and it was very dark, and our guide turned off the engine of the excursion boat, and we just sort of drifted along in quiet, and the sounds of the jungle were just awesome. Just all of these amazing sounds of animals and plants and crickets and everything. And then when our eyes sort of adjusted to the darkness, we looked around, and all of the trees were just ablaze with fireflies. I've never seen anything like that before, and it was just one of those moments where you're like, wow, now I know why I'm here. I know, this is a very, very special experience. And every day is just kind of a new adventure. We'll definitely spend an afternoon piranha fishing so that you can catch. Those are actually very tasty fish. So when we catch them, we'll actually prepare them, and you'll be able to try them in the evening. We'll try to be able to swim. At certain times of the year that doesn't work out, but when we can, we swim in the oxbow lakes, and we take hikes in the jungle as well as exploring on these boats. We also will get off and go into the jungle where we can. So that's where we don't have a fixed itinerary. The expedition leader really just kind of does it, and also varies the itinerary based on who's aboard. So if you have families that are on the ship, he'll do different activities than if we have maybe other people that have different interests, or birders. Sometimes you'll have some of the people that are just totally passionate about birds, so they'll go off in one direction and do their thing. So that is basically the trip. Now I just want to give you the itinerary, and I like this itinerary because you can see you leave on a Friday, and then you overnight in Lima, and then on Saturday you fly to Quitos, and you board the ship, and then you basically cruise from Saturday to Saturday, and then you fly home on Saturday night and arrive on Sunday. So you really only are losing in terms of weekdays that middle week, and then a weekend on either side. And so in terms of departures, you can see we're throughout the year several times a month. So you can really pick and choose what time of year you want to go. Of course, our summer departures tend to be a little bit more family oriented because kids are off in the summer. We also have a lot of kids during spring breaks, although that seems to be a sort of a fragmented time this time. And people always ask, well, what's the best time of year to go? And I gotta say, you'll have people really argue passionately about different times of year. There's two. First of all, the weather and wildlife and everything in the Amazon is very stable year round. It's warm and muggy, and it rains every day, but it rains in sort of quick, brief squalls, and then it's over with. Even the sun, it basically, since it's right on the equator, you have sunrise at 6 a.m. and sunset at 6 p.m. It's pretty much year-round. So what does the difference is high water and low water season, and that's created by the snow melt up in the Andes. And high water season will tend to be in March, April, and low water season will tend to be August, September. Now, some people like low water season because the river is much lower, and so the animals are more concentrated along the shoreline, and it's sometimes there just is easier to sort of find animals. On the other hand, during high water season, the entire Picaya Samaria Reserve is kind of open because it's all flooded out. The river rises as much as 40 feet. So you can really go deep into that area, and the ships can kind of get anywhere. So, and with our knowledge, our local knowledge and our experience, we can always find animals that way. So you'll often have people that'll go during high water and then come back and check it out at low water just to see how it's different. So really the thing is, go when you can, and that's the thing. And you can see the rates there now. So if you look at a 10-day trip, and this is all inclusive once you sort of get to Lima, everything, all your meals, all your accommodations, all your activities, are everything there. I mean, you could spend $3,800 on a trip to Disneyland. Not that there's anything wrong with Disneyland, but it's definitely a very good value for this incredible adventure. And if you can travel sort of close in March and April, you can see we have these specials. We have free in-country airfare, so you can save $368 per person on any of those March departures. And we also have a no single supplement on these. So instead of spending $5,600 on a single accommodation, you can spend $3,800 if you're traveling by yourself. So that's a significant saving. So keep that in mind. Now, this trip, and actually I'm going to talk to you about Galapagos in a second, and Galapagos also, both the Amazon and the Galapagos, work very nicely to extend to Machu Picchu and Cusco. It's another part of Peru that really everybody is fascinated by, and we do a really nice trip that both takes in, Machu Picchu, but also the Urubamba Valley, the sacred valley where you have the great ruins at Ollantaytambo and Sacsayhuaman, and as well as the colonial town of Cusco, which is this amazing blend of Spanish Catholic sort of architecture and also native sort of culture and everything. Now, one thing that people do, people always ask about altitude, and you fly in from Lima to Cusco, and Cusco is by far the highest altitude that you're going to reach. That's around 12,000 feet, 11,800. So actually what we do is you'll fly into Cusco and then immediately head down into the Urubamba Valley, and you'll spend the first night at maybe 9,000, 8,800. So now you're talking about, still altitude, but that's more like Aspen or, any ski area in Colorado. And then actually, surprisingly, Machu Picchu, where we spent 2 full days at the ruins of Machu Picchu, those are at about 8,000, 7,000 and change. And we actually spend the night about 500 feet to 1,000 below that. Anyways, the altitudes are there, but they're no more than you would encounter, say, in Colorado or whatever. But you can see from this itinerary, it's a very nice itinerary that not only gives you 2 full days, both a sunset and a sunrise at Machu Picchu, as well as the other great ruins in the Sacred Valley and Cusco. So that is and you can actually do that as a standalone if you want, or as an extension for either the Amazon or Galapagos. So let's talk about the Galapagos. That's the other great family adventure. And when I'm talking with travel consultants, they often say the best flow is really to take a family to Amazon and experience that, and then a year or two later have everybody go to Galapagos, because they really do flow very nicely into each other. Now, just a little bit of geography here. The Galapagos lie 600 miles off of the coast of Ecuador. And they're very isolated. You can see from that graphic on the right, if you know about sort of plate tectonics, and what happens is you've got a plate shifting, basically going from west to east, and underneath it you have hot magma coming up through holes. So what it does is it forms an island, and then that island slowly moves to the towards the mainland, and then another island gets formed and moves towards the mainland. And so what you have are the islands that of the archipelago, of the Galapagos archipelago, that are the farthest west are the newest. They're actually still forming. They still have volcanic activity, and the ones east were formed a little bit geographically earlier and a little bit more mature and have some more plant life and things like that. But all of the islands are very young geologically. They're only about 1 million or so years old. So this combination of geological newness and isolation is what created these amazing species of plants and animals and lizards and everything that are endemic just to these islands. And of course, Charles Darwin visited these islands on the Beagle, and was, that this is what gave him the idea of the selective species from studying these very unique animals. So we are going to go on our modern day excursion to the islands, and the ship that we're going to use to visit that is the Evolution. And there's a lot of ships out operating in the Galapagos. You don't find really big mega cruise ships. You can't have a ship any bigger than 100. But frankly, I think 100 passengers is a really big ship for visiting these pristine islands and these beautiful. The islands are 97% national parks, so they're all pretty much uninhabited except for a couple of islands that have human population. So there are these pristine, beautiful, uninhabited islands, and I don't want to go ashore with 100 other people. So often people think, well, I'd like to take a small yacht to visit the islands, but the problem that you encounter with a small yacht is that it's, the cabins are kind of cramped, and a small yacht can be a little bit more unsteady in the water, etc. So I think the Evolution is the best of both worlds. It's a very small ship passenger-wise. It's only 32 guests, 16 outside cabins. But it's a very big ship. It's 200 feet long. It cuts through the water beautifully. It has really nice, large cabins. The cabins are 280 square feet are the largest ones. 180 square feet are the smaller ones. So very large for a small ship, very comfortable, spacious. You're just going to love your room on the ship. You're going to love the lots of public space, lots of places to kind of get away, indoor, outdoor dining, great bar and lounge. So it's just a really nice ship as far as comfort and size. When you think about it, this is where we're finding a lot of families. If you have a family, we had a family of 10 or 12 or whatever, they have a half the ship. It sort of has a nice feel for that. Now, we also you have the opportunity to do a lot of swimming and snorkeling on these ships. So we do provide masks, fins, and shorty wetsuits. So you can use all of that at no charge on our ship, or you can bring your own. I often tell people, if you like to snorkel or dive and you have a favorite mask, I would bring that along, because the mask is nice because it fits on your face. But otherwise, you don't need anything. The other thing is that we're constantly getting on and off the ship to go ashore to these visitor sites. We use these Zodiac craft that are called pangas in the Galapagos. And the pangas, you can see we have a rear loading thing there, so it's really easy to get on and off of these pangas to be able to go ashore. And then, of course, what's going to really make your trip are the naturalist guides that you have. That guy there on the right with the sunglasses, his name is Bolivar Sanchez, or Boli, as he's known to everybody. And Boli is just one of the most beloved guides. I don't know, we're so lucky. We've just been there for a long time, and Boli is just our guy. He's on every one of our trips, and he is wonderful. He's wonderful with kids. He's born and raised in the Galapagos Islands, and so he has kids of his own, and he's just great, to travel with. And then we'll always have another expert naturalist guide as well, so that we can split the group up into bigger group size than 16 apiece to go ashore and to visit the areas that we're going to visit. So, rather than kind of go through like island by island, because that can tend to make you cross-eyed, I just want to kind of go through what a typical Galapagos day is like, and then you can, it just sort of flows from here. So sort of similar to what we talked about with the Amazon, you'll get up in the morning and have a nice hearty breakfast, and then usually what happens is the ship will be traveling overnight to get to the next island. So when you wake up, we'll already be at anchor outside of our visitor site. We'll have some breakfast, and then we'll go ashore. And generally, we go to these visitor sites. They have hikes of anywhere. They're never strenuous or long. You can see sometimes you are walking on sort of uneven uh, lava or things like that, but you'll hike through these areas where there's just amazing birds and plant and animal life, and staying with your naturalist who's explaining what's going on, and just taking a million pictures of everything you see. And and then usually there's an opportunity to swim or snorkel almost at every visitor site. So those who want to can swim. We have options too. So people who are maybe more advanced snorkelers who are comfortable swimming in water over their head can go out further on a panga to a snorkeling site and swim around there. And those who maybe aren't so comfortable with it, or younger children or whatever, can snorkel just off the beach and see that. And it's just amazing. The underwater world is incredible as the overwater world. Then we'll come back to the ship, have a lunch, have a little siesta, maybe lie out on the deck. The ship may reposition to another visitor site during lunch. And then we'll go back out again, and we'll maybe have a panga ride along the coast so that we can look at a colony of pelicans or something like that, or we'll go out swimming, or we'll go for a hike, or you'll have choices to do whatever, or you can go kayaking, or there's sort of endless kind of options day by day depending on the site and depending on what you want to see. And then everybody comes back at the end of the day. We have an upstairs sort of open air lounge where people have maybe an evening cocktail and some savory snacks, and everybody's talking about how amazing the day was and everything they saw. And then we'll go to dinner. And people always ask about evening entertainment. I mean, we'll sometimes play a movie in the lounge. Sometimes we'll have stargazing on the top deck. We'll often have things that you can do in the evening, but most of the time people just have a nice leisurely dinner, maybe a nightcap, and then go to bed because they're exhausted and wanting to rest up for the next day. And let me just give you some highlights, just some of the things that I think makes this trip so amazing. The one of the things that I love is that you fly from mainland Ecuador to the first island, to San Cristobal. And the airport is only a few minutes drive from the airport to get on the ship. And the ship will then take off. They'll do some quick little safety briefings and things like that. But within literally like a half an hour, the ship will reach the first visitor site. And you'll go ashore, and you'll be sitting there talking to a sea lion. I mean, it happens right off the bat. There's no sort of long several-day build-up to get to the good stuff. You're just, as soon as you land, you're going to realize you're in this just sort of magical place where you have these encounters with wildlife. And the wildlife really varies island to island. So, boredom just isn't an option. Each island has different species. We go to the amazing Tower Island, Genovese, which is really, I think, one of the highlights, and only smaller ships are allowed in there. And the Genovese is where you see the red-footed boobies, which is that bird there on the right. And it's an amazing bird because it's a web-footed bird that actually perches in trees, and which you don't see web-footed birds doing that in other places other than the Amazon. You'll see the amazing, magnificent frigate bird. That's that bird down in the lower corner, and the males will during breeding season, and they're kind of breeding on different islands at different times of the year, so you can almost always experience this. Will sit there in their nest, and they inflate this big red gular pouch underneath their bill, and they just sit there waiting, and the females are flying overhead looking for their favorite red gular pouch, and they land down there, and they start a family. And and these marine iguanas that are just something out of a Japanese horror film that swim in the water and eat the algae underneath the water, and then they climb up onto the lava to warm their cold blood on the warm lava stones, and they tend to lie in big packs of them where you can see them, and just on and on. I mean, swimming, as I say, is such a delight, and swimming with sea lions, I mean, they literally, the little younger adolescent sea lions will come out and play with you. They'll look you right in the eye, and then they'll turn away and they'll start to swim and see if you're following them. And if you swim away from them, they'll follow you, and they'll spin around and you'll spin around. It's just really magical. Plus, where else on earth can you swim with penguins? You know, the Galapagos penguins are the farthest north penguins. You only find those in the southern hemisphere, and this is going right against the equator. But you can actually swim with these amazing Galapagos penguins, and on and on. We do have kayaks on the ship, so where we can, we'll let off kayaks. This passenger actually got a little extra passenger on her kayak, which is kind of interesting. And just this feeling, of going ashore on these pristine, beautiful islands, I can't emphasize enough. You just don't see a power line or a car. Their preservation is really good. You rarely ever see a bit of trash. You really have this feeling like you're just on, a planet that is your own little private planet, and you really get that feeling when you're only with 20 or 30 other people and visiting these amazing things. So those are just some of the highlights. The islands are a very fragile ecosystem, so we're very committed to Galapagos Conservations. We're founding board members of the International Galapagos Tour Operators Association, which is involved in all sorts of work to fund research projects and to help to restore islands. And do all sorts of good works there, so you can feel good about traveling there with international expeditions. And the date pattern, the itinerary is actually very similar to what we had in the Amazon, in that you leave on a Friday. You can't fly to the Galapagos Islands in one day, so you have to overnight on the mainland Ecuador, and then fly out the next day to the ship. It's about an hour and a half flight, and it's on these are on full size like Airbuses, so it's nice, comfortable jet flight out to the island, and then spend a week basically cruising Saturday to Saturday, and then fly back to the mainland on the Saturday and fly home on Sunday. So you can see, once again, we're there year-round. Once again, the question, what's the best time of year? I am telling you, there is no bad time of year to go to the Galapagos Islands. They really are amazing year-round. Different animals are doing different behaviors during different months. I've been there 9 times just because I've taken a lot of groups there, and I've traveled in all different years, and every time, different times a year, and every time I go, I see something that I've never seen before. So it's really just, you want to go when you can go, and you're going to love it. You can see the rates there, and we have different category rooms. That's why you have a range of rates from $55.98 to $62.98. And then we also have some specials. So once again, if you can travel in some of these dates in February, March, April, or May, we have some free in-country airfare, saves you $441 per person, and then we also have the no single supplement and a kids discount. I don't know if I mentioned that. With Galapagos it was $150 a head. With the Amazon it was $150 a head. With the Galapagos it's $500 a head. And you can also extend to Machu Picchu, as I was saying. Now, before I leave, I do want to just point out one kind of interesting other option for visiting the Galapagos Islands, and that is this villa, very exclusive villa that we have access to. We're the only company that has access to this villa. Now, it's a beautiful villa. It's 5 bedrooms, 7 bathrooms, comes with its own chef, its own barman, and its own naturalist staff, plus its own ship. So the boat can go out every day for day tours to some of the closer in visitor sites and everything. And you can see it's just an absolutely gorgeous place, perfect for like maybe go for a Christmas kind of thing. To be honest, I think the best way to visit the Galapagos Islands is on a ship, so that you just wake up and you're at the visitor site instead of kind of having to travel round trip to the visitor sites. But sometimes you'll just have a group that doesn't want to do a ship. You might have maybe an older member of the family that just doesn't want to be on a ship the whole time. Or sometimes you might have people who really want to scuba dive. The visitor sites that you visit sort of above land and the best scuba sites are two different kind of trips. So this would be a way that half the family could do some scuba diving while the other half was going to some other places. So anyways, I just want to point this out. I mean, price-wise, you'll just want to talk to your travel specialist at Park Avenue. As a ballpark, if you have a family of 10 or 12 and you stay in the villa and it's not, you can't just rent part of the villa, you got to rent the whole thing. So if you can fill up the villa and you're going to stay there for about a week or so, it'll be similar in price to what you would spend on a week cruise. So that's just something there for interesting. So now I just want to talk about maybe, hopefully we've maybe interested you in some of these destinations, and we'd love to have you travel with us. So we'll throw in some specials. First of all, this is exclusive for Park Avenue and just for those of you that are here listening to this webinar. If you book any international expeditions trip through Park Avenue Travel by the end of next month, February 29th, we even have an extra leap year day to do it, you'll receive a $100 gift certificate for IE Gear. We have our own site called IE Gear where you can buy clothes, accessories, shoes, bags, everything that you need for your thing. So that's just something we're throwing in there. Once again, I'm just showing you the deals that we had on Galapagos and Amazon. So maybe something like that will wet your whistle. And so that is basically everything I have. I just, as always, I went a little longer than I wanted. I'm right now looking at the questions box, and I'm not seeing any questions that anybody has asked. So this is the time. If you want to ask a question, you just need to type a question into the question box, and we'll see. I'm just waiting for a minute to see if anybody has anything. And I'm not seeing any questions going in there. So, I think I'm just going to say thank you so much for your time and for learning about this. Of course, the main people to contact if you have any questions or if you want to book anything is your Park Avenue travel consultant.